I was in Chicago on Parshas Vayechi, and I was supposed to speak in a certain shul in Kal Hasidim. I was given slightly incorrect directions, which I wound up in a different part of Chicago. I saw quite a lot of the Chicago neighborhood, but it gave me time to think about a question which was really, really bothering me. And the question is as follows. I was listening to Parshas Vayechi and was thinking about my Mama Leah. Mama Leah. She really hit the jackpot. Look at the children. Levi, Yehuda, Yisachar, Zvulun, Reuven, Shimon. I mean, this is an incredible family. These are incredible children. All the great people of Klal Yisrael come out. The kingship, the Kuna, Leviah, the Talmidei Chachamim, the Machzikei Talmidei Chachamim, Yisachar, Zvulun. Everybody's coming from Leah. What special merit did she have to get such kinderlach, to get such children, right? As they say, this vush demto. How did it come? Where, what merit did she have? It was a very powerful question. It was bothering me very much. I was walking and walking through many neighborhoods in Chicago, trying to find the shul until I realized I was supposed to take a left instead of a right. I went back, but then it hit me. In the middle of Chicago, it hit me. The answer is as follows: the Leah Menu, Chazal tell us, the Torah tells us, Eini Rachose. Leah's eyes were wet. They were wet with tears flowing down her eyes. Wet with tears, and why were her eyes so wet with tears? What was Leah so upset about? Chazal tell us in Medrash Chazal that people at the crossroads, they used to say, Leah has two children. Yaakov has two children, two boys. He has a younger one. Yitzchak has two boys. A younger one, Yaakov, an older one, Esav. And Laban has two girls. Yeah, he has Leah, older one, and Rachel, a younger one. The two boys will be for two girls. Leah with Esav and Yaakov with Rachel. And people were saying this for years. And Leah heard this even as a young girl. And she said, let me find out about Esav. And she found out about Esav, and she heard terrible things. He's the worst Russia. You don't want to know what she heard. And when she heard these things, she was crying. This was the man that I'm slated to marry. Her eyes were filled with tears. Crying and crying and crying, filled with tears. And Hashem, we know, we've been speaking about this. All the gates are closed. All the gates of prayer are closed except for the gates of tears, as the Gemara says in Bava Metzia Daf Nun Tes. All the gates are closed except for the gates of tears. The gates of tears are wide open. Whoever can muster up tears and feel that. And Leah, her Einei Rachos, for years she was crying. Finally, her prayers are answered. Instead of marrying Esav, she marries Yaakov. And what happens after the first night? Vayar Hashem ki snua Leah. Yaakov was tricked into marrying Leah. And even their first conversation, he says to her, you're a Ramait bat Ramai. You're a deceiver, the daughter of a deceiver. And Leah says back very sharply to her new husband, yeah. She says, I learned it from you. Did you say, Anochi Esav b'charecha? Okay. Shalom Bayis, it might not have been the best thing to say, but she was saying the truth. Yeah. And from that time on, the Chazal say, Snua Leah, right? Yaakov just did not have positive feelings for Leah. And of course, he never said anything to her that was outwardly rude or cruel. But it just wasn't the same warmth that he had for Rachel. And she felt hated. Vayar Hashem ki snua Leah. Leah Menu felt hated. She felt hated, and therefore she continued to cry. And she cried and she cried, and she hoped that she would have children and find favor in Yaakov's eyes, but no. All her children. She didn't, with all her children, it was still Vayar Hashem ki snua Leah. And Leah learned to thank Hashem when things look bad, and she is the impetus for all the shirim that I give about thanking Hashem when things look bad, as we've spoken about many times. Leah Imenu, Vayar Hashem Kisnu Aleah, Vayiftach Esrach. And this was Leah's great source. This was Leah's great merit, to have children like Levi and Yehuda and Yisachar and Zvulun. Yeah, children like that. Vayar Hashem Kisnu Aleah, Vayiftach Esrach. If we want to have children, who are going to be tzaddikim like the Shvatim Halavai, we have to cry to Hashem. We have to realize today, it's so hard to bring up children in today's society. There's so many difficulties. There's so many temptations. So many things which take our children away from serving Hashem. So many problems. So many psychological, mental, emotional, social difficulties. Yeah. We're challenged by so many things. So many things. It's so easy for a child to be lost in this generation. We have to learn from Leah Imenu. Ki eini Leah rachosein. The eyes of Leah were softened with tears. We're softened with tears. And if we want our tefillas to be answered, if we want our children to be tzaddikim, like the Shvatim, then we have to cry and cry to Hashem. We have to cry and cry to Hashem. Cry our eyes out to feel the pain. To feel the pain. To really feel true pain. The true pain of what it means. So many parents are suffering today. So many difficulties. I don't think a week goes by, maybe even less, they don't hear about another tzara. Somebody's kids went off the derech. Somebody's kids are sick. Somebody's kids, just this morning, I'm walking to the kosel, and someone tells me, where was Hashem's mercy when my 14-year-old son passed away? My only child, 14-year-old son. We really have to pour our eyes out, buckets of tears. Someone once asked the brisker Rav, how are you zoichet to such children? Yeah, such wonderful children that he had. And the brisker Rav said, you see my hats? I filled it with tears. And the brisker hats, they're like round, like pinchnits. Yeah? I filled my hat with tears. This is what we have to do, because the only gates which are open still to us are the gates of tears. And we have to learn from Leah Imenu. We have to learn from Leah Imenu that we have to fill our hat with tears. Or if you're a woman, your tichel or your sheitel, whatever head covering you're using, you have to fill it with tears. And this is our only hope in this generation. And it's hard for us to cry. Right? It's hard for us to cry. Because our hearts have been hardened by the world around us. But we have to dig deep into our hearts. And you want to cry. We learn from Parsha Shmois. How did Moshe Rabbeinu cry? How did Hashem cry? Nasan einu b'libay liros saras Yisrael. Put your eyes on your heart. Just think about it. Think about my friend over here at the Kosa. One son, 14 years old. 14 years old, he said, where was Hashem's mercy? Where was Hashem's mercy? When we think about sorrows like that, it should bring us to tears. It should open up our heart and bring us to tears. So many parents suffering. Last night, we had made a special yard sale program for a bretta. And someone comes up to me, I haven't seen this person in 30 years, more than 30 years. And I say, Shalom Aleichem, how's it going? Right? He tells me he's separated from his wife already for 4 years. So many problems today. With Shalom Bayis, with health, with children, with Parnasa. Everybody's suffering. What can we do about it? Every one of us can do something about it. And that's Nasan Eina Belibo Liro Saras Yisrael. As Rashi says, by the first time we meet Moshe Rabbeinu. The first thing we're told about Moshe Rabbeinu, yeah, Shmos, Perek Beis, Pasuk Yud Aleph. Vayar b'siv loisam, nosan ena b'liboy leos meitzer aleya. Moshe Rabbeinu, he felt the pain. He felt the pain of Klal Yisrael. He felt the pain of the Jewish people. If we want to cry, we have to feel the pain. It has to go deep, deep into our hearts. And then we'll be able to cry. But as long as it's superficial, as long as it hasn't gone in yet, as long as we haven't been nasan ena b'liboy leos meitzer aleya, then we're not going to be able to cry. The next time you hear about a Jew suffering, it's probably the person sitting next to you in shul. Because I'll bet you that he has one of those four problems. Nasan ena b'libo leos meitzer aleya. Feel his problems. When someone tells you they're suffering with their children, with their spouse, with their parnasa, with their health, whatever it might be. Our job is to be nasan ena v'libo lios meitzer aleim, to feel their pain and to cry for them, and to cry and cry. We see by Yosef Atzadik, when he's reunited with his brother Binyamin, what do? They cried at each other's shoulders. Yosef cried for the Beis Hamikdash, which was in Chelik Binyamin, and Binyamin cried for the Mishkan, Shiloh, which was in Chelik Yosef. Each one cried for each other. This is our job today. This is our job today as we stand on the threshold of Mashiach and the final tribulations that we have to experience in order to come in. The Chevli Mashiach, as the Maral says, in order to have a new world order, the old world order has to be destroyed. And that happens through the tribulations that we're experiencing. In order for Mashiach to come, we have to really, really cry. And we have to show Hashem that we can't deal with it anymore. We just can't suffer the pain that our friends are feeling. If we really feel that way, if we feel there's so much pain, the Jews that are feeling so much pain, to feel their pain, to be nasan ena v'libo lios meitzer aleim. Right? Your friend who's been separated from his wife, my friend who's been separated from his wife for 4 years, and my friend whose son died at 14, and my friends who still have COVID and they can't function properly because they have long haul COVID, and my friends who they used to be very wealthy people and now they don't know where the next meal is going to come from. Nasan ena v'libai lios meitzer aleim. Feel their pain. Think about what they're going through and cry to Hashem. Let the tears flow from your eyes until you feel their pain. And dive into Hashem and beg Hashem. Hashem. Use the Shem Havaya. Be ma'orer, the mercy of Hashem for Am Yisrael. And in the merit of that, we should be zeichet to see the Gula Bakarav. Amen. Kain. T.A.